Hello, everyone. My name is Derek Zara. I am an academic success coach here at Ben Hudnall Memorial Trust. And today I would like to welcome you to our Ben Hudnall Memorial Trust Fireside Chat series, where today we will be discussing about the topic of making the most out of support services and resources. Today, I am thrilled to have one of our BHMT clients join us for this conversation in celebrating BHMT's Career Development Month.
Hi, nice to be here, Derek. I'm Camille. I am a registered nurse, and my current position at Kaiser Permanente is a patient health educator. I am currently in school for my family nurse practitioner degree, so it's a master's degree at Post University. For the BHMT side, I know my coach was very helpful in getting me started. And really giving me the confidence, I think, in the beginning to go through with this. Kind of reassuring that there are resources, whether they are for academic or mental health. That was helpful, because one of my issues was I'm a full-time working mom. My child is young. How am I going to do this? And she gave lots of different resources as far as, how to best manage your time. And they weren't really long articles. They were super helpful, just bullet points, because we all know I didn't have the time. And then I feel like also the check-ins were very, very helpful. Just almost like you had a relationship with the person, your BHMD coach. So my coach Heidi, I felt very supported as far as I kept my communication lines open. She kept her lines open. And I always felt like if she didn't know the answer, she would find a way to get me the answer or the support that I needed. And then on the post side, I think also I was really, really given another good success coach, another advisor who knew a lot about the BHMT program. So it wasn't like a constantly having to fill the gap or anything, but I believe she also gave a ton of resources for me, not just academically, but I mean, really mainly academically. She also provided good, mental support, but academically, I remember her even breaking down the time frame that we would have, and making sure that I would have the BHMT support. So in case I was worried about, anything about finances, about any other resources or lack of resources, she was available to kind of help answer those questions. Wanting to take a break because I felt very overwhelmed with the changes, all the changes in my career path, in education. As excited as I was to learn, I felt very much, very, very overwhelmed with everything, like not being able to be 100% in all of my roles. And I remember both Heidi and January, my advisor at Post, just really reassuring me and letting me know that I'm not going to fall too far behind, that, if I choose to take a break, it would be okay, that nothing would fall apart if I took a break. Because that was one of my issues was, will I still have the time? Will I have these resources still? And I never felt that wasn't provided for me, or that I ever had to doubt that it would go away if I stopped all of a sudden.
Right. And it's nice to be able to feel like even if you're putting a pause on one of your responsibilities, in this case your education, that you still it seems like that you felt good that hey, even if I'm putting a pause to this, I can come back to this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I will pick up where I left off from.
I remember wanting to take a break. So we took our three prerequisite classes, and I felt very overwhelmed. I also felt very like imposter syndrome. I hadn't been with a patient in so long, and I really thought, is this really the direction I want to go? I wanted to take a break then, but I didn't. I just kept on going, and I didn't do very well on the last class. And that's when I took a break to really realign what my goals are. And I think coming out of it, I was really discouraged because I didn't do very well, right? I was really discouraged. And I remember having conversations with both of them, but really with Heidi saying, you can't always take a break. You can try the class again. It doesn't mean it's the end. And it took a lot. And that's when I got a lot of these mental health resources. I mean, also, I hadn't been in school in a very long time. The online thing was it was really daunting too. It's a whole learning curveball as well. So I really felt everything all at once, and then having failed, or not failed, but not doing how well I wanted to do, I felt like I'm not even supposed to be here. This isn't it. And I think entering back in was pretty seamless, because then January just helped me get back in. There was still communication, was still open, and I said, okay, I'm really ready to go back now. And she went ahead and put me in the classes that I needed. And that being said, during the break, I know I should have taken like a huge break, but I was still given these resources to study and prepare for the next course, for the success for that course. So I was given the time to reevaluate, to realign, but also to re-educate myself with a lot of the things that I really wasn't familiar with. So I felt now coming back in, I was fresh. I had the resources that I did not know existed. And I was a lot more successful. And I think after that after that one experience, there was a lot more success because I knew what was right at my fingertips at that point. So there was that. And I felt super supported. And I think that's what you need the most. I think when you're in school, you want, especially in online school, you want someone kind of right there next to you. And it was really helpful to have both of them there.
I can imagine that, going through the three Ps at post, right? The three P classes and passing those classes, they are very challenging courses, right? And with post university, they're pretty strict with that. You do have to meet specific grades in order to pass and move forward with the nurse practitioner program that they offer, and also passing the exam. And speaking of the APA exam, I wanted to also ask you, how was that experience like for you, and if were there any resources that you utilized to prepare you for that exam?
So this goes twofold, because the three Ps, I was not prepared. I was very, very not prepared for that. I went into the test. I went into that test thinking, I got this. I got grades. I'm fine. And I did not got this. I didn't do very well on that one. And then that's when I got a ton of different resources. I was suggested certain like preparation courses, and I used preparation courses for the nurse practitioner boards, right? And found that to be the most helpful, which in turn, I felt, oh my gosh, this is amazing, because at this point in my program, we have the APA resource. So they're the ones who write our 3P. They're the ones who do our predictor exam. And we were given the videos, like learning videos, to go through high yield topics to be aware of, and a test bank at this part. So I thought that was very helpful. I mean, would I have wanted that for 3Ps? I think I would have not gone through with the program if I did, only because it is a lot. It's a lot of information. It's very overwhelming. I think that given the resources, as far as, here's some textbooks to kind of review, here's content. If you need content, here's that. If you need a test bank, here's that. I mean, I used, and I don't know if it's through BHMT. I think it is, but I used Board Vitals. I accessed it through one of, when you just explore, the site, you run into things. And I ended up using that as a test bank. So that was a good part as well. I know also that, you could be very hesitant in purchasing a huge, what is it called? The preparation courses. And I remember, having to see if this was something that was covered or any of the sort. But at the same time, if it wasn't covered, there was an alternate resource that was provided. So I felt, after my break, I felt very much prepared to tackle that test. And then I think that gave me the confidence to just knowing that you have these things coming for you. And I didn't know that Post was going to provide the APA test banks, which, I mean, it could be seen as very tedious, but it's so helpful to be answering questions every single day, just to get your mind used to it and to the practice. And then also sitting for, the 2-3 hours that you are for taking the test. I think that was very helpful. But really just the right now, even as we're, closing the end of our chapter here, my advisor had just told us that we're getting another review course, again, setting us up for success. And I think that's huge testament to Post, to BHMT, the communication and listening to the needs of their clients. Because I know that the group of us, many of us were from Kaiser, so we were like, we were happy that we had this day to prepare. We were happy that we could even meet to exchange information or do testings together. But I think that in and of itself, the time, the resources, the test bank, invaluable.
Perfect. And again, thank you for being so detailed with sharing your experience with the 3Ps journey to the
I think
exam.
it's important to share that because I think many people are on the same boat as I would have been.
Right.
I would understand. I can imagine someone, who's been a nurse for X amount of years, hadn't been in school for so long, and what am I doing here? And I think it's just knowing that you have the support and the resources right there, kind of helps power you through it, right? I mean, you have to do the work, obviously, right? But you also know that if I don't know where to find something, there's always that resources. There's a person that I can reach out to.
How did you first learn about the support services available to you at your school at Post?
In the beginning, we usually have, I think at the beginning of every class, we have an email that's sent to us regarding the resources that we have. So the library. But what I found most helpful was the NP clinical folder. I think because I had a very focused track, I believe that the advisors at Post probably got the same questions. They gave us a timeline, kind of what to expect at whatever time there was in the program. And then there were links to the resources that we would need. I found, of course, the clinical library super helpful. I also found the resources that Post gave, like free subscriptions to clinical guidelines, because that's what most of the instructors really wanted responses to is the clinical guidelines, show the evidence. And it's hard to just read all the articles. They provide us the articles, right, like PubMed, but it's nice when you have the actual clinical guideline in front of you, like UpToDate, Dynamed. That was all very helpful.
Very good. It seems that, the resources that they've offered to you, right, is readily available to you. It seems very detail oriented also, right? Or like you shared, the links specifically, to the material that you're being taught to ensure that, the material is not only to your understanding, but you can apply it.
I have to also, going back to support, I really feel also supported within my own work environment because I have the flexibility to work in the evenings, and my boss was able to give me 4 hours one day and 4 hours another day, which this one really allowed me to go to clinicals. So in NP school, you have to be there physically. And that was one of my worries, but I think also just figuring out that you can either do, a whole day's worth, or you could do, you can split it into 2 days. That was really helpful for me, two 4-hour days. That way I can maximize my clinical time. I know that's like me overreaching here, only because I'm like, I don't want to be at the end of the program and I don't have enough hours. So I always allotted for more time.
Sure.
Is it possible with 8 hours every single week? Yes, but here's me trying to just a little bit. You never know. I never know when my kid's going to be sick. I never know if I'm going to be needed at work. And so I felt that was very helpful, and just not having to worry that I would be missing, as far as providing for the family, that I wouldn't be missing anything on that. So
Right.
that also helped with the focus, and in school.
it's a very, it's a great resource, especially that, you could use a portion of your work hours with
Hmm.
your supervisor or your manager support that you're going to school and being able to be flexible with with your hours. And like you said, without having to cut back on hours because, we all need to work, right? We need to be able to survive and, do well. And, like you said, you brought up also a good point where, managing your hours wisely. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways is, as you can probably imagine with the wage replacement program, it allows allows you to use a portion of your work hours, right, for
Right.
school,
Hmm.
when classes are in session. But also you're allotted only a certain amount of hours per your degree level. So you really have to think about using those hours wisely. Like you
Right.
said, like it's like you have to make sure like you have enough time and dedicating enough time towards the end of your program, especially when clinicals are taking place, because that's when you really need those hours. Question. I wanted to ask you, what's one resource you think more students should know or be aware of as a BHMT client?
I think BHMT is um, underutilized to begin with, like all the resources, because it's not just one school. There's so many schools. And if I didn't want to go the clinical route, there's a leadership route. But still, I don't want anyone to think that I only got these resources because this is a clinical, a clinical role. But even in leadership, even in education, there's the support, not just through the stipend, but also, you know, um, article wise, resource wise, clinical evidence kind of stuff. So I feel like it's not just for one. And even if I think I didn't want to pursue anything, Master of Nursing related, I think there's always that track as well. So I feel like you have to do, if you want something more than what you have, you should just explore. And it's just a matter of clicking site. If there was something missing in your own realm of education, or you wanted to add something, there's like free CEUs for one. That's always a good one. But I remember using to learn a little bit more about some of the content that I was learning. There were free certification courses that I could take advantage of. Free meaning I just click, listen, and participate. I mean, yes, I had to do the work, but I wouldn't have had to purchase a whole nother review course. It was all there. And I feel like that's just it. I feel like the whole BHMT page is just underutilized, and there's so much in there if what you're looking for, or if you're just curious.
So thank you again for sharing your journey so far with us.
You're welcome.
Very good. And as we wrap up our fireside chat series for Career Development Month, we encourage you to continue, reaching out to your BHMT coach to ensure that you get the most out of your services and resources. And we hope to see you soon. Thank you.